Let's now talk, though, to Jeremy Feeney, motoring expert, because a couple of stories have come across our desk today, mostly about electric cars. There are electric car discounts which are now at such a high level that the manufacturers are saying they are unsustainable and they cannot continue indefinitely because there's a downturn in sales. Also now, 3 and 4 drivers have serious concerns about buying second-hand electric vehicles because they're worried about the batteries. And I've been saying this for quite a long time. Let's find out from Jeremy what's it all about. Jeremy, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Hello.
Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. It seems as though there's a bit of a bubble bursting here on the electric vehicle front, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, I think what has happened in the industry is that the sales of electric vehicles has been driven by the user chooser, the business user,
Yes.
who has switched to electric, not for environmental reasons, but because it meant they were no longer paying benefit in kind.
Yeah.
So it meant that their taxation was lessened or
Right.
zero,
Yeah, there was
effectively.
a lot of tax discounts given, wasn't there, to fleet buyers. If they bought an electric vehicle fleet, they wouldn't have to pay the tax they'd normally pay on a petrol or diesel car.
That's right. Yeah, if you go out and choose a petrol vehicle, you get taxed on it as a benefit in kind, or a diesel vehicle, it would be a benefit in
Hmm.
kind. But with an electric vehicle, that's not the case. But unfortunately, that you could almost say that little bit of a bubble, as you said, that little bit of a bubble has burst
Hmm.
because that will only give you so many sales. Eventually, you've got to sell the electric vehicles to the retail
Right.
marketplace. You know, the chap who's buying it with taxed income. And you can't really make the vehicle cheap enough.
Right.
And they've done this by they'll heavily discount to the fleet market, but the profitable end of the market for the dealer, because there's also the dealer is involved in this because he's got to make some money to keep going. And in many cases, he would need to take the vehicle in part exchange.
Right.
Um,
And that is
so
the
this is
problem,
where it
isn't it?
gets very
And
tangled up with
the other problem,
residual value.
the secondary problem, Jeremy, apart from the price differential, is the fact that an awful lot of people are now saying they're not sure they would buy a second-hand electric vehicle because of the state of the battery, because they don't really know what happens to the battery when it gets older and older and older, and they don't really know how expensive it's going to be to replace.
Well, it is a large proportion of the actual cost of the vehicle. So I mean, the used car market. Once you look at the used car market and the used car buyer is conservative with a small c. So he is always very cautious as to what he buys, and is not likely to be a sort of early adopter,
Mm.
which is what the people who are buying electric vehicles will be. Um, and he doesn't really want to. He's buying into something,
Right.
which he's no idea whether it's going to be worth anything
Mm.
in sort of 5, 6, 7 years down the line, because they're talking about battery lives of maybe 8 years.
Right.
So if he doesn't get the vehicle until it's 4 years old, when it enters the used car market, the residual value of it 2 or 3 years when he comes to change it could be almost zero.
Yeah, well, that's the trouble, isn't it? And of course, it's now been made very clear in various different formats that you can't sell electric vehicles as claiming they've got zero emissions because that's not actually technically true. We're also finding out that the tyre wear on them is awfully, awfully much worse than it is on a petrol or diesel car because they're so heavy. And we're also finding out as well that the manufacture, of course, of the EVs is not at all sustainable. It's not at all green.
Well, that's right. I mean, we're going to see in the autumn a big influx of cheap, affordable electric vehicles
Mm.
from China.
Right.
Well, there is serious doubt about the environmental issues that China is or isn't adopting in manufacturing anything.
Right.
Um, and then if you look, then if you start looking at disposal of the batteries, um, there's massive cost to dispose of them in an environmentally friendly way.
Mm. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous now how this whole, as I say, this whole sort of electric vehicle bubble is being burst on a daily basis. Jeremy, thank you very much indeed for that. Also, we'll be talking about cars as well, because apparently insurance for young drivers has gone through the roof now. You won't be able to get any insurance for a young driver, much less than about £3,000 a year. We'll come back to the virtue signalling of EV drivers. There's one here from someone who says, Mike, all these EV drivers driving with the virtue signalling smug face aren't so smug now, seeing they've wasted money on a worthless electric vehicle. Well, as you heard from Jeremy Heaney there, Jeremy Feeney rather, it may be that an electric vehicle becomes absolutely and utterly worthless. Extraordinary.